dear.
All right. Cool. That's that.
I think I've stopped sharing.
All right, we're good to go. Streaming is set up, so in about was it 7 minutes we'll be live.
So, can you check Travis to make sure that, you know what, never mind, because Cameron is still saying he never got the link, but I can send that to him. That's okay, I'll send it to him.
To the videos?
No, to the link to get into the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey,
Hello.
Hello.
hey there.
Hello. Hey.
Let me stop.
Hey. I'm going down. Bye.
Yeah, Gwen, those two videos are the ones I'm going to be able to get up in time. So.
No, that's fine. I just wanted, I don't know that I'm gonna be able to play them from here, but we'll see. Let me just get,
All right. Well.
it's okay. Team, everybody, please mute yourselves until we get started. The stream is streaming, so please mute yourself until about 5 minutes till 6. Thank you.
Can parents access this from the website directly?
Yes, that is the only way they can listen is via the website or our Facebook page.
Okay. And is it being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
but it is live now, so you can shoot me a text.
Okay, sorry.
Everyone, please mute your mics until it's time to start. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can
Can
hear
you
you.
all hear me?
I can hear you, Kevin.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Hey, you.
Good evening, team. If everyone please mute your mic until we're ready to start. Thank you. Please mute your mics. Thank you.
Throughout the day. And the same goes for highly touched surfaces like elevator buttons and vending machines. We are creating the safest learning environment possible. If we all work together, we can reach that goal. Remember, let's work together to get through this together, because together we are Trojan Strong. Okay, can you just
I don't think they could hear. I don't know how to make sure that they can. Yeah, I want them to hear.
Safe. Well, first and foremost, we're depending on everybody to do their part. That means washing your hands often, following all safety guidelines, practicing social distancing, and wearing your mask. Our facilities department will make sure that all classrooms, offices, lounges, and other common areas around campus are as clean as possible. They will also frequently disinfect highly touched surfaces like elevator call buttons, door handles, and hand railings. In addition, hand sanitizer stations will be located all throughout campus. And electrostatic disinfectant sprayers will be used to sanitize all classrooms between uses. Heavily used classrooms will be professionally cleaned and disinfected at least twice a day. Disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer will also be placed in all classrooms. And like the classrooms, the cleaning of office spaces will also be stepped up during this school year. We have worked hard over the summer to ensure that all mechanical systems are also working properly. Air conditioners, chillers, and other mechanical systems have been cleaned and disinfected to ensure that they are working properly. That's to maximize ventilation in all areas. Those same diligent efforts will be applied to residential halls as well. Common areas such as corridors, lounges, shared bathrooms, and laundry areas will be wiped and disinfected constantly throughout the day. And the same goes for highly touched surfaces like elevator buttons and vending machines. We are creating the safest learning environment possible. If we all work together, we can reach that goal. Remember, let's work together to get through this together, because together we are Trojan Strong. Okay, can you just
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our parent, student, guardian town hall meeting. It will be moderated this evening by Ms. Lori Dixon, and a parent, and Cameron Gray, who is the president of the Student Government Association. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Lori Dixon. Ms. Dixon.
Hi, thank you all for tuning in this evening. We hope to get a lot of your questions answered tonight. As was said, my name is Lori Dixon, and I'm the parent of a rising junior at Virginia State University and a member of the Family Engagement Committee. And I'm here with Cameron Gray, your SGA president, to help moderate this panel and to hopefully get you answers to a lot of the questions that people have had. So we are going to proceed first with, first I want to remind you guys that you can use the live chat feature to type in questions that we will periodically check throughout the time we're on here to get through some of your live questions. Cameron's also going to be checking social. We'll integrate in some of those live questions as well. You can also find the full opening plan for the university on our website. So if you have any questions when we're done or you need things in writing, please go to the website and look for our fall opening plan on the website. So without further ado, I'm going to call on our president, Dr. Abdullah, and he is going to give us an opening statement. And as soon as he's done, we're going to jump right into our questions. So Dr. Abdullah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Dixon. Thank you, President Gray. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Do I have an echo? No, I'm okay. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I sounded okay. It's good to welcome everyone, and I'm glad that those who are here who want some of their questions answered have decided to join our town hall. We've got all of the usual suspects, if you will, who are here to make sure that we can answer any of the questions that you have related to move-in or related to the semester or anything that we need to be able to answer questions about. I want to first say this. I know that it was uncomfortable. And I know that an inconvenience to change move-in and move-in back to the 31st, just to begin move-in on the 31st of August. I want to apologize for that. But I also want to say that with COVID and with the way that things are changing, we felt that it was a very important move, again, to make sure that we could have our campus as safe as possible. As we began to go through the summer, our initial testing plan was not to test every student upon the arrival on campus. As a matter of fact, that was one of the questions that was asked in the last town hall. During that last town hall and around that time, we had begun to investigate, do we need to test all students as they arrive on campus because of the rising numbers in Virginia, particularly in Tidewater, in Northern Virginia, and in the greater Richmond area. We ultimately made the decision that it was very important that we provide a level of pre-testing for students when they're at home, but also as they arrive on campus. Doing that meant that we had to push back move-in in order to accomplish that task. And so we understand that it was an inconvenience, but we feel ultimately that it was the right decision to make. There are other universities that have now made very similar decisions. UVA, the College of William and Mary, University of Maryland just today. And so we know we're trying to do what a lot of institutions are doing, which is to adapt to the changing environment with COVID. With that, I think it's very important that you continue to monitor social media, to continue to monitor the webpage, but also to continue to monitor your emails. Because as the situation continues to change in the country, we want to make sure that we adopt the best form of testing or the best form of moving that we can to make Virginia State University a better place. And so again, thank you for your patience. And now I'll pass it back to you, Ms. Dixon, so we can get closer to the question part of the program. Thank you.
Okay, before I start in with the actual questions, if you would just speak a moment to what sources are you using to make your decisions? That's been a question that's kind of come up, who's making all these decisions and what sources, where are you getting your information from to make your decisions?
We're making these decisions as a group, relying very, very closely on the Virginia Department of Health, as well as the CDC. One of the other things we're doing, though, is we're constantly monitoring the statistics of where the outbreaks are in Virginia. And while, again, the greater Petersburg area is not as bad, let's say, as the greater Tidewater area, we know that we get a lot of our students from all around Virginia. And so every hotspot in Virginia is of interest because we know that we are bringing young people and their parents to campus from those areas. And so we're monitoring all of the data on cases every day. We're monitoring outbreaks every day. We're following the Virginia Department of Health and the CDC for guidelines in terms of recommendations on how to move forward. It is an ever-changing environment. And so we get new information every day on these topics.
Okay, thank you. That's important to know because people want to make sure that we're following safety guidelines and procedures. So with that, I'm going to jump right into a lot of questions about the COVID testing. So first question, are the COVID tests going to be sent to the student's address on file? What should we do if our students are not at their permanent residence address that's on file with the university? How will they receive their kit, their test kit?
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. This is Kirsty Johnson Oliver. I'm a family nurse practitioner with Student Health. I would also echo President Abdullah's remarks. We are asking that all students please continue to check the website and to check their VSU email. Another colleague is having her college-age students check their VSU email and the website in the morning and then again in the evening. More information to come, please check your VSU email and there will be an opportunity for you to update your mailing address for the COVID test kit to be mailed to that particular location.
Okay, great. We have several questions about what kind of a test is it, since we have you on right now. The question is it a nasal or saliva test? Is it a rapid test? What type of test?
So the home test kits will be saliva, and the turnaround time once the student mails that test back using the postage that's in the envelope is 48 to 72 hours. So not rapid.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Thank you. Once students have turned in their test, the test will go directly back to you. Will students be required to test again after they arrive on campus?
So the students will download the app to their mobile device, their smartphone. So the students will likely see their test results before student health arrives on campus that particular day. We will have access to the admin portal. That admin portal will be confidential only for student health clinicians. So we will be following HIPAA and FERPA guidelines. What was the second part, Ms. Dixon?
Just will they be required to test again after they arrive on campus?
Yes. So we are working out the logistics now with testing once the students arrive on campus during the check-in process, and throughout the semester there will be surveillance testing of the campus.
Okay. Another question, can a student do a test at home and provide you with the results of that test instead of doing the test that you send?
So certainly we want to respect students' preference and what they're comfortable with. However, what we're finding is that certain locations are not allowing students to or individuals to test if they are asymptomatic due to supply and demand. I think we've all seen on the news some of the issues at the federal level and then again at the local level. So if the student does feel comfortable going to their primary care physician, again, if that's their preference, we want to respect that. And then they will need to provide documentation. However, we feel that our test kits will be in line with the amount of time. So again, time is of the essence. So if you get your test kit and you mail it back in, we will have your results versus the student going to their primary care provider and then those test results come back that may not be in the window that we're trying to achieve with our home kits.
Got you. Thank you.
You're
So what will happen, this is the next question, if a student tests positive before they move in? Do they stay at home or do they still go to campus but self-isolate?
So once the positive result from the home test kit, we would advise the student to continue to continue their courses virtually. If they're on campus and they are positive, we do have quarantine housing reserved for students.
So just to clarify, if test results from the home kit come back positive, they will stay at home. Can they return after a certain amount of time to their dorm room? Will they be allowed to go to their dorm room? And
So-
how long?
Sure, Ms. Dixon, thank you. So we will discuss that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And who would they contact first? Or would you contact the student? If a test comes back positive, should students expect to hear from you immediately, or should students contact the health center? How should they handle it once the results are received?
So the student will have access to the application from the testing company. And then student health will also follow up with that particular student that tests positive.
Okay. Another question. Where do I find a waiver form for the COVID test before my son attends classes on campus? Is there a waiver form that needs to be signed, I guess is the question. And if so, where can we find that?
Sure. Dr. Ellison is the Director of Counseling Services. Is Dr. Ellison with us this evening?
Good evening. Yes, I am.
Good evening.
Good evening. That information can be obtained from the Student Accessibility Office. If the student chooses to have a waiver, they would request that information from Memorial Hall, first floor, Student Accessibility Office. But the waiver may not indeed allow the student to be on campus. Because this is a health and safety risk, we can require that the student, be at home and be safe as opposed to coming to campus.
Okay, and then does that also apply to religious objections?
Absolutely. I did check that information on Friday with my Title IX office, and that is indeed the same option. The student can choose a waiver, choose not to be tested, but then we may say that student cannot come to campus because we want the student to be safe and we want the other people in the community to be safe as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good information. Next question. If COVID continues to spike, continues to rise, will the school consider making the whole fall semester online?
I guess I'll take that one. The answer is yes. We are, of course, considering every option, but we believe that it's important to have students on campus, that the experience at Virginia State, even if it's not the same as the experience of last year, is a very special one, even if students are taking many of their classes online. And so we're going to do everything we can to try to provide the best safe environment that we can so that students can have a face-to-face opportunity. But yes, if it gets to a point where COVID has made that decision for us, we have been always preparing for everything, for every eventuality, and so we are prepared to do that.
Thank you. And we should continue to monitor all forms of communication because, as you said, this is an ever-changing situation. So we're going to do our best to get the information as quickly as possible to students and parents, but we need to also monitor maybe 2, if not 3 times a day, student emails. And I kind of want to make, as a parent, I want to really kind of emphasize to all the parents on the call tonight to please ask your students 2 and 3 times a day. We do not receive the same emails that they receive. They're getting all of the information, and sometimes the delay in the information getting to you is because your student isn't passing it along, not because the university hasn't put out the information. So please check your emails frequently, parents, with your students. Next question, and a good question. Will there be any type of counseling or support for those who have had to deal with COVID, a loss of a family member to COVID, or just the stress of being in a pandemic and going to school during a pandemic? What type of counseling options are available or support?
Good afternoon. Again, this is Dr. Ellison from the University Counseling Center. We will be providing counseling services Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If a student would require counseling after hours, they would contact campus police, who will contact the on-call clinician, and we will provide care. The difference this year between last year and now is that we're asking students to call to make the appointment in advance. However, no student in a crisis situation will be turned away. We will provide care. Someone will be present.
Great, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When the last question I will probably say in this category, when will you make a final decision for fall?
We'll ask Dr. Palm to
Yes.
answer that. Dr. Palm?
Yeah, we're going to continue to monitor the COVID-19 pandemic. And what we'll do, though, is that we'll make sure when that final decision is made that we have enough time and we will not be surprising or inconveniencing the students. But we're very, very sensitive to the fact of how much of an inconvenience it was. But as Dr. Abdullah said, we are going to try our best to provide that face-to-face for our students that we really enjoy providing for them. So it'll be enough time that we won't inconvenience you.
Great. That's a big question and concern for parents, that they have enough time to plan for transportation and scheduling and getting their kids onto campus. So with that, I'm going to switch and ask a few questions for housing. Once again, can meal and housing be canceled without penalties, and the $150 housing reservation fee be reimbursed? If you make a choice not to come on campus at this point, can your meal and housing be canceled, and can the $150 housing reservation be reimbursed?
Good evening. Housing cancellations are being received. And yes, the cancellations are being processed without any cancellation fees or anything of that nature. In regard to the $150 advance, the $150 advance payment will go through its normal process of being credited to the student's account as a payment toward their overall tuition if the student is taking online classes. So you would get the benefit of that $150, which is to go through its normal process of being credited to the student's account as a payment toward the overall bill. If the student is not attending classes for the fall term, money is still then credited to the student's account, and as long as there's no outstanding fees on that student's account, it will show as a credit, and by virtue of that will be refunded.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Dixon, if I may just ask, because I think that Cameron is monitoring their social media and getting a number of questions in from students from their perspective. Just want to take a quick break here and just check in with Cameron to see what questions that you're getting from some of the student constituents.
Good evening, everyone. I am Cameron Gray. As previously stated, I am the 48th Student Government Association president. A question that I got on Instagram is, when are we going to get the new move-in dates sent to them?
The move-in dates for August, starting August 31st, has been posted to the website. So that information is already out there. Student leaders will start coming in on August 31st, and all of the students, all general population of students will start coming in thereafter. So we'll go ahead and send out an email, but that information is already posted to the website. The new move-in dates by Residence Hall.
Okay, thank you for that. And also, when will classes be final? Because some of the classes still say to be determined.
Yeah. Thank you, Cameron. I will follow back up with the registrar's office and the departmental chairs to make sure that those classes actually are final. And so I'll see how many of those classes are out there, but we'll make sure that we get those cleared up.
I want to follow up with Mr. Crawley on the housing. I have a question from a parent. It says, I have a freshman who forfeited her dorm assignment due to medical reasons because of the pandemic, and they want to know, what date should she apply for housing for spring 2021? Or can she? And how would you go about doing that?
Sure. So spring term housing process will begin on November the 1st. The spring housing process will begin on November the 1st. The application for the spring will go live on November the 1st. There will be no fee attached to that application. It's just simply completing the application so that the student's application will populate in our system. That way we will know that the student is requesting on-campus housing. So November the 1st is the answer to that question. November 1st, the spring application will go live.
Okay. We've seen it already in the past that we are limited in the amount of people that we should bring on campus to move our students in. I believe the number is 2 adults per student. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the question is, will you provide any assistance for helping the students move in since the families are limited with how many people they can bring?
There will be, so in regard to providing assistance, we want to limit the contact. So it'll be very important for families to do their own move-in, so that there's a limited contact between staff and students and parents. So there will be a limited number of people moving in at one time. That's why the move-in dates are kind of spread across a certain time frame. So we'll give you enough time to move in, but we want to limit the contact between individuals. So we do not understand the concern, and there will be some case by case basis where the staff will probably step in and assist. But at this time, the student leaders will probably most likely be isolated due to testing and all that good stuff.
So is it safe to say if you are a student who requires help, if you believe you would require some additional help moving in, they could contact housing to set up some help potentially?
It's just send an email to reslife@vsu.edu, and myself and our director, Mr. Peterson, we can look into the assistance that's being requested and see if we can accommodate.
And am I correct? Right now, we want only 2 people in addition to the student on campus moving in.
That's correct.
Okay, good. All right. You answered a lot of questions in that. So Cameron, I'm going to toss it to you. Do you have any more you want to jump in with right now?
Yes, thank you. So I have a question in relations to academics. Where will we find all the assignments for our classes? Does VSU have a Google Classroom page, or will it be a link with our assignments for each class?
Yes, and I think Dr. Brooks Walters may be able to help answer this question, but for the most part, it should be in your Blackboard shell. And so when you log into your classroom, you should have a Blackboard shell. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. And so that should actually help you find your particular assignments. Dr. Brooks Walters?
Good evening. So tomorrow is our first technology help session. It will occur at 5:30. There will be a second part on Wednesday. Please check your email, your personal email and your university email. A link was sent to both. These sessions will go through how to get in Banner, how to get in Blackboard, how to check your email, what to do on the first day of class, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, and what you should expect the first week of school. So the first session is tomorrow at 5:30. If you cannot attend, it will be recorded so that you can watch it later at your leisure. And then there will be a second part on Wednesday that talks about student health services. Again, that'll be at 5:30. And then there'll be a final session on Thursday that deals with student conduct and some other issues regarding VSU that you should know about before you start class.
Great.
Thank you for that. And I also have another question. What will happen to the classes that have not yet been assigned, but we are enrolled in? For example, Hyper.
We can't hear you, Dr. Palm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So what we'll do is those classes have not been assigned. Those classes have not had a faculty member assigned to them yet. So I'll be working with the chairs to make sure that those faculty members get assigned to the class that have to be determined or ones that have not been assigned.
I have a question, and this might be Dr. Palm, so I'm gonna throw it in at this point, and if not, someone else can jump in. The question that came was, during move-in week, will classes still be in session, or will they come to a halt to allow students to move in properly? They expected to be online in their classes during move-in week.
Very good, very good question. Well, the classes will still be going on. We're gonna ask that the faculty members are a little bit more lenient during that week as they move in to make sure the students get settled in and everything like that. But the classes will still be going on. I think for the most part that if a student is moving in that week, that he notifies his faculty member who's teaching the class, just to give him a heads up, and that we'll make some accommodations for him.
All right. Another question I think is in reference to high flex classes. Will those change now into asynchronous classes automatically, or will they be synchronous? The question was, they might cause some schedule conflicts, so the person wanted to know, will they now just turn into asynchronous?
Well, I'm going to probably have to speak with the faculty members who had those classes that were assigned as being high flex classes, and it's going to really depend on the faculty members. At least and this is a great question. At least I can communicate with the faculty members not to take so much with regard to that type of delivery of the particular course. So I will speak with the faculty members who have those types of classes to make sure that they kind of reduce their inconvenience in the person.
Cameron, did you have some more you want to jump in with?
Yes. So this is in relation to academics as well. Once the campus opens in September, will the face-to-face classes return to in-person classes, or will they remain online?
Yeah, thank you, Cameron. Thank you for that question. So the face-to-face classes are to be on the 14th of September at this particular time. So it'll give a little bit of time to acclimate to campus, also for testing to take place, but also faculty members will be ready to go with the face-to-face courses on September 14th.
You were breaking up a little bit, Dr. Palm. Did you say that the face-to-face will begin on September 14th?
September 14th.
Okay.
And also, this question is in relation to the delay. When will student e-bills be updated to reflect that that they're not on campus for room and board?
I think Mr. Davenport is on, Kevin Davenport, that question. When will student accounts be updated for the month delay that they are not on campus?
Yes, can you hear me? We are working to get those adjustments done as quickly as possible. We do realize that those adjustments need to be made, and many of you are looking at those as it pertains to your validation. So we're looking at this week into next week, trying to get those adjustments done.
And since you brought up validation, I'm going to jump in with a validation question, because there was a question asked, will validation be extended? I know previously students needed to be validated before they arrived on campus. Or will that still be the case? Or is that validation period going to be extended?
Well, and I will address that question as well. Typically, late registration will start directly after class this year, because we realize that a lot of students are still trying to get validated and maybe having some difficulties, and even in terms of the communication. We're going to push back that late registration until Friday, and we're going to continue to monitor it. See how the situation is and what status we're in, but we're going to push back the late registration fee instead of classes pushing it back to Friday.
Okay. Let's tackle a few more of these financial questions. There are a lot of questions about online classes versus in person and fees associated with them. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions that you can probably cover all in one. And so one is, will tuition be reduced because of the delayed process of being on campus for the first few weeks? Is there a difference in the cost between remote learning and in-person learning? And will comprehensive fees be reduced for online learning?
Okay, yeah, I'll take the tuition first. We are not planning on adjusting tuition. It does cost significant money to run the online programming. It's just as expensive as in-person classes. There's a tremendous cost to invest and make sure that technology is appropriate. And the university, we've already started making those fiscal investments, and we continue to make those investments as well. There's a significant cost to ensure your technology is up to speed and upgraded and being properly maintained. And we have all intention to make sure that we do that. In terms of adjusting the tuition costs for students, I just want to remind everyone, when we talk about online learning here, it is much different than a lot of online programs that you may see now, where you basically log into the system and you kind of go at your own pace, and you're really truly on your own. You learn the material on your own as well too. The type of online instruction that we're prepared to offer here is it's very engaging, it's very interactive. You're still going to have full access to your faculty. Everyone, as well as your classmates, will all be logging in at the same time. So we still want to have that engagement between peers, and you can still have full access to that faculty in terms of asking he or she any questions that you have. So we're not preparing to make any adjustments to our tuition rates because of that. In terms of the comp fee, being a Trojan here at Virginia State, and the president probably could talk about this a little bit too, is of course the classroom experience is a big part of you coming here and graduating and becoming a Trojan. But the learning outside the classroom is equally as important to the experience here at Virginia State. And we plan on still trying to offer that to our students. We think it's something that's really important. And that comprehensive fee, it actually supports a number of activities and things that students actually get away from the classroom experience. We plan on doing all of those things. However, it may look a little bit different. It may not be some of the traditional things that we've done in the past. It may be different. We feel like in the context of the greater world and things that are happening in society around us, some of our programming may be different, but we still have all intention to still have speakers available, bringing those speakers in to engage with our students. We had elections on campus where all of our student groups, they are planning on to being active and involved in campus life. And that fee will be fully intact, and it will be used to provide that type of program that we think is critical to the development.
Do you anticipate most of those gatherings being virtual, or will the students be allowed to have some small setting gatherings?
Well, we're still looking at, students coming on campus, so there will be some still on campus programming, but the majority of them and a lot of them will be planned to be virtual for right now. And that's something we will continue to monitor through the semester. Depending on what happens with COVID, that could certainly change.
Hey, Ms. Dixon, this is Regina Tyler. Hope all is well. And I wanted to just follow up with what Mr. Davenport said. So there will be small group activities. As you know, I think the number that we are up to now is no groups larger than 50 on campus. So we have to be mindful for the number of students that gather, and then to also be socially distanced. So we will offer quite a bit of activity virtually, but there will be smaller activities planned throughout the course of the semester. Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question. Our students who are moving and expected to attend their classes during the move-in times, like if you have an 8 a.m., but that's also your time to move in, it's not possible to do both.
Right. Hey, Cameron, this is Ms. Tyler. So again, I think Dr. Palm did state that if the student has class on a day that they're moving in, that we just want them to communicate with their faculty. But I think that we also said that we were going to communicate with faculty to let them know that students will be moving in and to allow for some grace. And then there was one thing that I did want to correct that I made note of. Classes actually will begin on August 17th. So there is not a delay in classes. We will start classes on time on August 17th, and they will be virtual. So there won't be a discounted price because classes are being delayed. Move-in is being delayed. So I wanted to make sure that we clarified that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And also for the face-to-face classes, how many students will be allowed in class, and how will social distancing be implemented?
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So Cameron, I'm also going to have Jane Harris speak to this as well, but classes have actually been reduced with regard to the number of students that will be allowed into the actual classes themselves. And so let's just say you had a classroom that sat 60 students. Well, now because of social distancing, we will probably only have 20 students or maybe 18 students in that particular classroom. Therefore, that's why we have the various categories of high flex or hybrid classes to accommodate the whole class at different times during the actual instruction of that particular course. Again, 6 feet apart. Students will be separated 6 feet apart. Also, the classes will be cleaned throughout the day and disinfected throughout the day. So again, the staffing members and again, the students will be expected to again make sure they're wearing a mask, but also doing the best they can with regards to best practices in regards to COVID-19.
Okay. And also, how do students get their textbooks this year?
Right. So for the most part, the textbooks actually, when they sign up for the class, the textbooks actually should be able to, going to be electronic. If for some reason the faculty member has ordered a hard copy of the textbook, of course those have to be delivered to the student's home. But for the most part, and I need to follow back up on this, most of the textbooks should be electronic, so the students should actually have access to those particular textbooks by signing up for the class as well as going to the bookstore.
Additionally to that, is it too late for students to wish to only be online for this semester?
No, it's not too late. No, it's not too late. I think for the most part, make sure that that student gets in touch with their advisor to make sure that they're available and that they are able to get into the right section that they want to be in.
Dr. Palm, while you're talking about that, we did get a question specifically from a parent who was concerned that their student did not have access to all online classes in the mass communications department. So can you clarify, is there an one-to-one, is there an online for every class, or will you have to look online and view what status the class is to determine whether it's online or even if it's offered, I guess, too?
Yes, so for the most part, I directed my chairs to actually provide the opportunity to have both face-to-face as well as an online class. I think we'll have to follow up in the mass comm department to make sure that that is the case. I think the other thing is that to make sure that the student is communicating with their advisor, and that the advisor can help navigate those different types of issues that they're facing.
Thank you. There were a couple of questions concerning the decision to not attend the university because of the online status. So if a child decides not to attend this semester due to online situation, when would they need to withdraw before they would incur a tuition charge?
Let me make sure. Can you repeat the question?
If a student decides not to attend because of online classes, they're not comfortable with online, when would they need to withdraw in order not to incur tuition charges?
Yes. So there's a drop add period. I don't have the specific date, but they would have to drop the classes before that particular time. Mr. Davenport. Davenport? Mr. Davenport, can you hear me?
No, you were breaking up a little bit. I couldn't hear you. So never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, when will the students be able to get all their fees back and their money back because they're not comfortable with online? There's a drop add period.
I mean, well, if you never get validated as a student, you won't incur those costs. So part of that, if you don't, you just make sure you don't become validated. But if you do become validated, as long as you drop, before that ad drop period, it would be adjusted appropriately. According to the guidelines that are published in the catalog in terms of withdrawing, the account will be adjusted just like we typically would adjust. But if you never don't intend to come, don't become validated, and you should not be hit with a tuition charge.
Thank you. Can an incoming freshman delay their enrollment to spring of 2021 or even the fall of 2021 if they're not comfortable coming to college with the COVID crisis? Are they able to defer their acceptance?
Good evening, Ms. Dixon and everyone else. Definitely. For a student who's been admitted for the fall 2020 term, if they want to come spring 2021 or fall 2021, they'll contact the admissions office and we can process their application for that term.
Thank you. There's a question also about students who use book vouchers and how they are able to acquire their books. But if they're all electronic, they don't need to physically get the books. Is that fee applied to the student accounts? How is the fee handled for electronic books?
Okay, I'm going to try it one more time. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you now, Dr. Palm.
You
Yeah.
hear me now? Okay, I do apologize. So the actual electronic textbook is just like a hard copy textbook, and so the student, in some cases, the textbook is included with their tuition and fees for the class, and so when the student enrolls in certain classes, that textbook automatically comes with the actual class itself. So there's a certain fee that's attached to it, and so basically they'll be able to have that textbook on day one, and usually those electronic textbooks are less expensive than the hard copies as well. And so we are trying to provide a cost saving measure for our students with the electronic textbooks.
Thank you. On a different one, I have a question about work study. How will work study be distributed to the new and returning students?
Good evening, everyone. This is Myra Phillips, the Director of Financial Aid. Work study positions will be limited this semester. Students who qualify will be notified via their VSU email account with instructions by August 31st.
Thank you. Cameron, do you have any live questions you want to jump in with?
Yeah.
Right now?
What will happen to lab classes? Students have to say, will they be required to pay for equipment to do labs at home?
Dr. Palm, are you there?
Yeah, here I go. So what we do know is that in certain disciplines, there will be labs that are done remotely. And again, in some cases, some of their lab fees will be actually a part of really helping to do those particular labs at home. In one scenario, in one case we're looking at is that the lab fees will actually be reimbursed to the students, and the students may have to go to a certain vendor to get the actual site or permission code for that actual lab itself. And so we're working around some scenarios right now as we speak to make sure that the students will have the best experience they can, especially in the lab. I know my engineering labs are really upgrading. I have Mr. Harris working with Dr. Halley to make some great things happen for our engineers, but also we have chemistry and biology labs also that we're working with as well.
Okay. And last town hall, it was stated that all classes will be offered online, but that's not the case. Mass communication classes are still forcing face-to-face classes and telling students to drop their class if they can't come back to campus.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Ms. Dixon also asked that question as well. So what I would suggest is that we get in touch with their advisors as well as the chair of that department to see what else can be done. The last thing we want to do is inconvenience the students, especially because of COVID-19. And so we'll work with that department as well as the students to make sure that we can provide that experience that they need online and move things forward. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, and we will work with our faculty and staff to make some things happen.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Palm, if a student is in need of technology, they don't have access to a laptop, who can they contact for help with that?
I'm gonna pass this over to Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, you want to chime in?
Yes. Earlier today, we sent out information about the computer stipend program that's available to undergraduate students. We certainly recognize that in some cases, access to technology as well as internet access could be problematic for some students. And so there is a $500 stipend towards the purchase of a new computer through the VSU bookstore. Information about that went out earlier this afternoon.
Is that available to all students?
Undergraduate students.
Awesome.
That are validated.
That are validated.
Yes, that are validated.
All right, great. Dr. Palm, I think this one does go back to you. Will graduate classes also be held online for the first month of school?
Yes, they will. And we're working with the various graduate programs to make sure that that they are offering those particular classes and they can continue to offer those classes. In some cases, in some programs, they have decided to go all online. But I know in some cases that there is a face-to-face interaction that needs to take place. So all the way up until September 14th, they will be online.
Great.
I have a question in relation to student activities. How much money will student activities have for planning virtually?
Hey, Cameron, would you repeat that question again, please?
Yes. So how much money will student activities have for planning virtual events?
How much money will they have? That's a little difficult to answer because there's a budget for student activities for the Department of Student Activities, and it has several different factors in it. So that's a little difficult to answer because there's so many different things that go into that. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a specific dollar amount on that. That's a little difficult.
Yeah, I can add to that there are no plans to reduce the budget in that area, so it'll probably likely be very similar to the type of budgetary support that was provided in the past.
Okay. And
All right. And if I may, Cameron, you did say virtual event, correct?
yes.
If it's virtual, there is no cost for a virtual event. The technology, such as what we're doing now, the technology is available.
There's a couple of things that may have fees if we have some DJs and things like that for the virtual party. So there may be, but to have a specific amount just for the virtual events is, like I said, it's just a little difficult. But
okay. This question is also in relation to student activities. What activities will be available to students Will outside activities such as basketball and tennis courts be closed? Will they be available to a limited number of students at a time? Hopefully, having access to activities on campus will discourage students from going off campus for recreation.
So, as well, some people may not know, but all athletic events are canceled for the fall semester and will possibly reoccur in the spring. Consequently, we have also canceled intramural sports, and it's primarily for the same reasons. It's just not safe. So for just a local pickup basketball game, on the campus, again, there's the same safety issues, and we don't want to force anyone off campus, but it's just not feasible for us to have those activities on campus. I should say it's not safe. So I think we stated throughout all of our town halls that this semester is going to be very, very different. It will be limited access to group activities, entertainment, because we just can't have large gatherings. But those events like a pickup game on the basketball court, in the gymnasium, we know those things won't happen because they're just not safe when it comes to the spread of the coronavirus. It's difficult to play basketball in a mask. The amount of fluids that are transferred from different players through, with the balls and everything. So very few physical activities. Now, if it's something like possibly tennis where, people are not touching, that might be something different. But if it includes contact of any type, no.
Okay. Another question in relation to student activities. Will there be Greek activities including Greek week during the fall semester?
We can't hear you.
Yeah, it generally works better when I take my mic off. I'm sorry. I don't know if Mr. Perry is here, but he has been in contact with the Greek letter organization's national offices. There are going to be some virtual intakes because we won't be having physical intake processes on campus. So, and I don't want to overspeak, but yes, there will be, but they will be virtual activities with the Greek letter organizations. And as far as other student organizations will have information regarding meetings. So there would not be large physical meetings. I think only the executive boards will be permitted to have meetings. The entire organization meetings will be virtual. And again, there may be some physical activities, but again, it'll be small, limited to groups of 50 and fewer. And I think I answered your question, but if not, let me know.
Yes. Thank you. I have a question in relation to the comprehension fee. It is stated, why are students who will be at their homes being charged the same amount as a campus student or what is essentially an activity fee?
All right. Again, we plan on having those activities virtual. So the students will have access to speakers and other things, but it will be done on a virtual basis and not face-to-face.
Hey, Mr. Gray, this is Ms. Tyler again. Can I inject a question? Because I'm getting a lot of messages through group and also on the live stream. It's regarding information relative to university apartments at Ettrick. So information related to housing for those who are living in apartments at Ettrick will come from that apartment complex. They are separate from the university, although university students live there. So it's just like living off campus in a regular apartment. So housing information about UAE will come from them. We are sending information when we finalize everything about computer testing. And the other question was for students who are at UAE, will they receive the self-test? So the answer is when you get your information, we already have some students that have indicated that are currently residing at UAE. But when you go to your email to answer the email that we just sent out this afternoon about your current address where you want your test, let us know that you are physically at UAE or you will be at UAE by the end of this week. And then your test will be sent to you at that address. So if it's housing information about UAE, that's strictly information that will come from them. And then we will do our part. If the students still have their same university email, they should continue to check their emails like the other students. And then the information for testing, you know, all of that information has been delivered either on the website or through the university email.
Are there any other live questions that you want to address?
Yes, Ms. Dixon, again, this is Christy Johnson Oliver with Student Health. Just a couple of key pointers. Thank you. A couple of questions that are in the chat. Health forms and health holds. The Commonwealth of Virginia mandates immunization record, a TB screening, and a health history form. So those three forms are mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia and have to be turned in to our immunization coordinator, Ms. Nicole Jones-Shinjobi. Please reach out to her and email her if you have questions about health forms and health holds. Her email address is N as in Nicole Jones. So that's NJONES at VSU.edu. The physical is no longer mandatory unless you're a student athlete. So please reach out to her for questions regarding health hold status or general questions about health forms. Thank you, Ms. Dixon.
Thank you. We have gone through, I think we have hit just about all of our previously turned in questions. So I'd like to take the next few minutes. If there's any more that are coming through the live stream or through social media that we have not already addressed, I want to open it up now for anyone who's looking at the chat or Cameron on the live stream. If there's something you see that we haven't addressed, if we could address those questions now.
Okay, so this in relation to visitation, will there be visitation for people that are in the same building or same floor? And also, how is visitation being monitored? And what if a student travels home?
So we have been pretty straightforward about the visitation. Students are not allowed visitation outside of their residence halls. For students that are within the residence halls, they need to be mindful who they are affiliating with. If you are in another room, you should always wear your mask. And I want to go back to a couple of things that will be done when the students return. This may help, but when students move in and we go through the move-in process, they're going to get a document that's called the VSU Stop the Spread Agreement. And so that document talks about, you know, the behaviors of the students, the things that we should do, like wear your mask and wash your hands and maintain social distancing. Don't gather in groups larger than 50, to be socially responsible and govern yourself accordingly. So that document will be given to every student, and every student will have to sign on to that document, because we can only do what we can do. And I don't want to sound negative, but you know, we have all of these things in place and then the students do something else. So we got to be mindful that all of us are in this together and that we are responsible for taking care of each other. So that document is going to happen. We're going to continue to be mindful of, you know, the people that we associate with. If you go off campus, as some of us will do, we go off and we food shop and we shop or whatever. Again, those same things. Make sure you are mindful of wearing your mask, maintaining social distancing. I'm sure while you all are home, you all are going out, you're shopping, but you're doing those things, wash your hands, monitor your symptoms, and just try to limit your exposure to large gatherings when you're home. And we want you to do those same things here. So you asked another question about, what was the second part of that question, Cameron?
The second part of the question was, what if a student goes home?
So if a student goes home, again, I mean, we want to have those same types of practices. Now, if you go home and you know that there's a known COVID case, then you might not want to go home. Now, of course, if we don't know, then we don't know. But again, you want to be mindful of wearing your mask. And then just having the question, if you go home and your parents is, if anybody's sick, anybody, displaying symptoms, I mean, we may think that that's unreasonable, but those are things that we may have to do. We may have to consider. And so as a reminder to everyone, there is no fall break. There is, and we will go home, when we go home for Christmas break, that will be the end of the semester. So if you just go home for the weekend of your local, that's fine. But again, you want to make sure that you're mindful of those things that you're doing, because you're going to come back and potentially infect everyone around you if you're not mindful.
And I do have a question here, Ms. Dixon. This is Gwen Dandridge from the live stream. Mr. Harris mentioned earlier about the $500 voucher for validated students. So getting some questions here asking, how do I get validated? So can someone please address that for those students and parents who may not know or understand the validation process?
Rodney Hall here.
Mr. Hall, are you here?
Yes, Rodney Hall here from Enrollment Management. So when we speak about validation, we're saying the student needs to be financially cleared or validated before the semester begins, which means that the bill has been paid in full through the use of their financial aid, outside scholarships, and any other satisfactory arrangements, including payment plans. So a student can check that through their Banner self-service account, their student accounts. They can also call into the student accounts office if they need to do that to check the balance on their account. And I saw another question out there regarding, I think we're confusing, or maybe some confusion with tuition fees, room and board. So those are separate costs. I think people who are living at home are responsible for the tuition and the fees, right? So that's a certain amount. The room and board is a separate amount. So if you're living at home, you're not living on campus, you will be charged tuition and fees. You will not be charged the room and board portion. So if that applies to you and that's on your account, please contact student accounts in Residence Life to make sure those housing charges are not on your account. But those are separate fees, they're not the same. So you will not be charged the full cost of a residential student if you are living at home. And I think also Mr. Davenport mentioned the late validation date. I'd like to say that date is now going to be August the 21st. The date was August the 17th. So the late validation date is August the 21st. Thank you.
Okay, I do have a couple more live questions. How much is the rebate for August for meals and housing?
The amount of rebate will really depend on what type of whether you're in a single, whether you're in a double. So there's not a flat amount, for each student. It's really based on your individual selection. But generally, it looks like it's going to be on the housing about $400 or $500.
Okay. And another question is, can one still attend classes if they're not validated?
Am I to take that? No. I'm sorry. You want to jump in, Mr. Hall?
I think Dr. Palm wants to jump in. Dr. Palm?
Yeah, so of course, validation is going to be very important for our students in order to actually take classes. So we're pushing all of our students to get validated before classes start. Now, if for some reason, if the student is working with our financial aid office as well as student accounts, they'll let us know what students are maybe pending as far as validation goes. And so we're working very closely with those particular areas and those different departments to manage that. But it is really our intention to have our students validated as soon as possible, and that they will be able to, again, receive this $500 towards a computer as well. So we're looking forward to that.
And we do have a number of other questions about the computer. So just going to ask Mr. Harris if he'll pop back on, because we're getting quite a few questions in the feed about that $500
Okay.
Some students want to know what it can be used for. Some want to know, will they receive it before classes start? And how will they know when they've received it, and what is the process?
So what we're doing is actually applying a credit on the bookstore. So what'll happen is, and we'll send out the link when it's ready. The student will go to the bookstore and pick out a computer. And by computer, I mean a desktop computer or a laptop computer. And it could be a MacBook, it could be a Chromebook, or it could be a Windows PC. What we're not suggesting and what we're not going to allow is things that really aren't going to be advantageous for a student to use for instruction. So an example would be an iPad. The student would actually have to have a keyboard with the iPad, and there's limited software to be able to use that iPad for instructional purposes. So we're going to refrain away from tablets and allow for the purchase of laptops, desktops. And let's say if you already have a computer at home, or you got one in your dorm room, then this might be an opportunity for you to purchase a printer or a monitor or keyboard, or as Dr. Palm has on, he has headphones that will work with his Zoom session. So those types of computer peripherals will be allowable. And again, we don't want to limit what models of computers that students can choose. So we've kind of left that open, but we will be policing to make sure that our students are buying legitimate computing devices, which are approved. Does that answer the question, or is there a follow-up?
I have a follow-up. Does the computer then get purchased through the bookstore?
Yes. Yes, the computer will get purchased through the online bookstore. You don't have to come to campus. The online bookstore will handle the exchange. And I have gone on to the bookstore. There are a number of very nice computers for $500 that would be adaptable to work at home as well as on campus when the students return, or if they are going to be on campus. So we took all of that into consideration.
Another follow-up question for you, Mr. Harris. We have a question that someone wants to know, will this $500 be deducted from their financial aid, or does it have to be paid back?
No, this is to make sure that you have the technology to be successful as a student, whether physically on campus or remote. There is such thing as a digital divide, as we mentioned earlier. I do know that a lot of our students do have computers. So maybe it's an opportunity for someone to upgrade to a more powerful computer. Or, like I said, they may want to purchase a printer because they're going to be doing more things at home versus going to the library and printing at the library. So all of those things, peripherals as well as desktop laptops, are things that our students can purchase with the free $500 stipend for validated students. Does not count against your financial aid at all.
Great, that's awesome. So at this time, I just want to ask if any other panelists who are on the call right now, are there any things you want to add, clarify, or just say to the students and the parents who are on the call tonight? Because we have gone through all of our written sent in questions, and I think we're kind of now coming to the end of the online ones. So if anyone on the panel wants to please jump in now and add something, clarify information, and just give us any more information right now, that would be a good time to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Before we do move on with that, I do have two questions. How will orientation be carried out this year for incoming freshmen? And when will it?
Good evening, Mr. President Gray. We conducted the online orientation this year. So students who were admitted and had submitted their orientation or housing fees should have received access to that. And students who have not received that, definitely give a call to the admissions office, 804-524-5902, or they can contact me directly rhall, RHALL @vsu.edu. So that's how we conducted the orientation this year.
Okay. And then the second question is, how would meetings such as for organizations be held this year?
Student organization meetings will be held virtually. The executive board may have some face-to-face meetings according to Mr. Perry. So they will be able to go through that usual process with, securing space through EMS. But large gatherings of student organizations will be held virtually. So they'll have to schedule web meetings or WebEx meetings or Zoom meetings, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we are coming to a point. We want to be respectful of everyone's time tonight. We sure appreciate everyone from our university who's taken the time to get on this call tonight and to help answer any of our questions that we might have as students and parents and caregivers. So with that, I am going to ask if Dr. Palm would kind of give us some closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me great. Ms. Dixon, you are a natural, so thank you so much. And Cameron, thank you very much as well. Also like to thank my colleagues around the Zoom call as well. You can see that they have been working very hard to really get the campus ready for our students this semester. And we are working day and night to ensure that. One of the things that I was reflecting back with Mr. Harris, that if we look at the nation as well as the state, that this pandemic is actually, there's more deaths and more cases than we had when we shut the university down. And so we are really trying to provide the safety for our faculty, staff, and students, and make sure that we're making the right decisions. And they're difficult decisions as we move forward. So I just ask for your understanding and as well as your flexibility as we move forward. We're going to get through this. We'll get through it as a family. And we'll make sure that we do what we need to do to be safe here on campus. So we'll continue to address any questions that you may have that you may want to still write into us. And in many cases, we don't have the answers, but we are working very hard to get those answers. So again, I just want to thank you all for this call this evening. I'm not sure if there's anybody else who wants to say a few words, but with that being said, Dr. Abdullah gives his apology that he could not be here to close us out, but he knows that we're working hard for him as well.
Thank you, Dr. Palm. So with that, I think we're going to get ready to conclude. I would just like to say, additionally, parents, please check your students' email accounts and check the website. Lots of new information has gone up even today. So please check the website and please check your students' email account for all the information. There's been a lot of good information given. Trainings are happening tomorrow, the next day, and the day after. Students need to be aware of that. So please sit down tonight and go through your students' emails so that you all have all the most up-to-date information. And then I would just like to say in closing, if you would like to be on our parent and family engagement committee, please send me an email directly. Again, my name is Lori Dixon. My email address is Dixon, DIXON _ Lori, LORI, at Comcast.net, and we can help you stay as up to date as possible with things that are going on. And we also have informative information sessions throughout the year with all of the various department heads to keep us up to date on everything that's happening on the campus. So that is another way to stay engaged with your student at Virginia State University. So with that, I'm gonna thank everyone for participating and give Cameron the last minute if you'd like to say anything else to your fellow Trojans. Cameron,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you. Lastly, if any students have anything that wasn't addressed tonight and they have any more questions, feel free to reach me at the VSU SGA on Twitter and Instagram, or my personal social media at CamXKeon on Instagram. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Travis, go ahead and stop the recording and the stream.